Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, the readings today are Judges chapter 17 and 18, where we meet an interesting young man called Micah from the tribe of Ephraim. He stole his mother's silverware and overheard her cursing the thief. So out of fear or a twinge of guilt, he confesses and says, "Yeah, Mom, here's your silver." She's so excited that little Micah has now become honest that she takes the silverware. I've collected as much of the silver I can find in Sue's kitchen and stuck it here in our entrance foyer. Gathered as much as she could of the silverware, gave it to a silversmith and said, "Cast little Micah an idol for me, please." And so this was a treasured possession of Micah, and he sort of managed to fuse it in with his faith. He was a Jew. When he had sons of his own, he asked one of his sons to do the family devotions, but use the idol in the family devotion. Anyway, I don't know how long that lasted, because a Levite, sort of a lost soul, came wandering through the neighborhood. And remember, the Levites were from the priestly tribe. And he said, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" He said, "Look, I'm looking for a place to stay." Micah says, "I got a great idea. I'll hire you to be my personal priest. I'll give you food, I'll give you clothes, I'll give you a place to stay." The Levite was a gun for hire. He said, "Sure, what a deal." Anyway, a little while later, 5 Danites come by. It must have been like a border town in Ephraim. And they pop in and say hello to Micah. And then they see this priest with the wrong accent. And they say, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Well, I've been hired. I'm the family priest." They said, "Oh, you're a priest. Well, tell us if our journey is going to be successful." The Danites were scouting for land. He says, "It's going to be very successful. You're going to see an unsuspecting people. God's going to give it into your hands, and the tribe of Dan is going to have a community." They ran back to where they came from, mustered 600 troops, came back to go take out this territory to settle the tribe of Dan, which is what happened. But en route, they passed Micah's house again. And they say, the 5 guys to the rest of the troops standing at the gate, "Listen, there's a priest here. Let's take him with us. If he's coming with us, God's surely going to be on our side." See, superstitious, blending in this idea with the Orthodox Jewish faith. But while they're about it, they steal the idol and the ephod, and they rush off. Micah tries to intervene. They say, "Listen, boy, you are just one man. Go back to your house." And they say to the Levite, "Listen, why do you want to be a priest just to one family when you could be a priest to the whole tribe of Dan? Come with us." So he says, "Promotion, okay, I'm coming." So he goes with them. Now, the chapter ends with the Danites, and it says this, that they, verse 30, they set up for themselves the idol. And Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests in the tribe of Dan. Now, what do we learn from these 2 chapters? Well, firstly, I think there's a massive application for anybody like me who is paid to do ministry work. Now, all of you are priests, right? But I'm the sort of priest that gets paid, remunerated for ministry. Anybody who is in full-time ministry in terms of payment should be very, very mindful of this chapter, that we don't become hirelings, that we don't become a gun for hire, that we don't trade our values and our convictions for convenience or for finance. A huge warning for anybody in the ministry, and we could speak a lot about that, but I'd like to go on to another issue which applies to everyone who will be listening this morning, that of syncretism. Syncretism is the blending of cultures, the blending of ideologies. Now, when Jesus left the early church, syncretism came into the early church in the form of Gnosticism. Gnosticism was the combining of Eastern thought and Hellenistic thought with Christian thought, and that was very dangerous, and Paul wrote into it, and it watered down the gospel. But, syncretism isn't always evil. I mean, when cultures blend, it's natural. So the fact that people do judo and karate in this country is the the blending of Eastern sports into Western ones. In our culture, you've got all sorts of cultures who blend and affect each other, generations make things change. So, for example, I'm sitting here in a torn jacket. My grandfather would never have been caught dead in a torn jacket. What's happened is that cultures change, cultures rub off on each other. But it's sinful when it moves into faith. So I can remember my grandfather, before he was saved, had a Buddha in his house, yet he was a Presbyterian. What was he doing? He was mixing Eastern philosophies with Christian faith. And, look at Christmas. Christmas used to be Christmas. You go to shops nowadays, it's Xmas. What's happening there? It's like boiling a frog slowly. You bring in Eastern ideologies, worldly ideologies, pagan ideologies, you mix it with your faith, and all of a sudden, you've lost your moorings. That's why it's so important that we read the Bible and say, Lord, keep us pure, keep us wholeheartedly after you, going, there's no way to the Father but by Jesus. The Bible is His inspired word of God, not modern philosophies, enlightened thought, constitutions. No, they don't affect your faith. They shouldn't.